Tim O'Brien's On the Rainy River. It's one of the most famous stories to come out of the Vietnam War, and for good reason. It's this gripping tale of a young man facing the draft. But I think beneath the surface of that agonizing decision, there's a deeper moral logic that a lot of people miss. So today, let's dive in and see if we can uncover what's hiding in plain sight.
The entire story, and I mean the entire thing, hangs on this one haunting paradox. The narrator does his civic duty. He does what his country and his community expect from him, and for that, he calls himself a coward. How can that possibly be? So this is the central puzzle we're going to try to solve. In a world that almost always equates going to war with bravery, O'Brien's narrator just flips that idea completely on its head. And to really get why, we need to look at the story through a very specific and maybe even surprising lens.
Okay, so if we want to explore the story's moral architecture, we find it resonates really deeply with concepts from Catholic theology. Now, this isn't about claiming the story's secretly religious or something. It's about using this framework as a kind of key to unlock its true meaning.
And as it turns out, Tim O'Brien himself was raised in the Catholic tradition. Now again, we're not saying he intentionally wrote a Catholic allegory. The idea is a little more subtle than that. It's that this upbringing may have shaped what you could call his moral imagination.
So what is a moral imagination? Well, you can think of it like the set of tools you use to understand right and wrong. And for someone with a Catholic background, that toolbox is going to be filled with some very specific ideas. Things like the importance of your own individual conscience, the real weight of sin, and the absolute gravity of being personally responsible for your choices.
And here's a really crucial concept: interior assent. In this view, what matters most isn't just what you do on the outside. It's what your conscience agrees to on the inside. You could technically do the right thing, but for the wrong reason, and still be morally guilty. You see, the real battle is the one that's fought within.
And that brings us to the true battleground of this story. And guess what? It's not in Vietnam. It's the war happening right inside the narrator's own conscience. So let's break down this moral failure.
First things first, the narrator is not confused. He's not weighing the pros and cons here. He has already decided. His conscience is fully formed, and it's telling him with no uncertainty that the war is wrong, and participating in it would be a moral crime. This distinction is just so key. The narrator doesn't have what you might call invincible ignorance. He can't claim he didn't know any better. No, he has culpable knowledge. He knows exactly what he believes is right, and his agony comes from violating that knowledge. That's the source of his profound soul-crushing guilt.
So if he knows what's right, what's stopping him from doing it? Well, it isn't the threat of prison. It's not a criminal record. It's shame. It's that paralyzing fear of what his family, his friends, and all the people in his small town are going to think of him. He's terrified of being seen as a coward.
And O'Brien makes this devastatingly clear. The narrator admits it in the plainest terms possible. He didn't go to war for patriotism, or for duty, or for honor. He went because he was embarrassed not to. He chose social belonging over his own moral integrity.
This internal collapse leads him to a real physical place, the Rainy River, the border between the United States and Canada. But you have to understand, this river is so much more than just a line on a map.
His journey there is a clear, tragic process. Step 1, he has that moral clarity, and he decides to run. Step 2, he reaches the threshold, the river, which really represents the choice between two futures. And then step 3, right on the edge of freedom, he just collapses morally. Totally paralyzed by visions of what everyone back home will say.
In the framework we're exploring, the river represents a moment of grace. It's a chance for him to convert his belief into action, to actually become the person his conscience is telling him to be. But this grace is offered, and he refuses it. The river doesn't block him. It just witnesses his failure to choose freedom.
And standing there at the river with him, in a way, is this mysterious old man who runs the fishing lodge, Elroy Berdahl. His role is one of the most debated parts of the story. And this framework, well, it gives us a really powerful way to understand him. Look at what Elroy provides. He gives the narrator a safe place to stay, food, quiet companionship. He gives him the opportunity to think, the space to breathe, and most importantly, he gives him silence. He never asks a single question. But here's the key to his entire character. For all the things Elroy offers, there is one thing he pointedly withholds: absolution. He doesn't say, "It's okay, you're doing the right thing." He doesn't forgive him. He doesn't make the choice for him. Elroy's purpose isn't to save the narrator. It's to bear silent witness,
to make sure that the choice, whatever it is made in complete moral freedom. He is the presence that guarantees the narrator is utterly and totally responsible for what he does next.
And of course, the narrator makes his choice. He turns the boat around and goes back. He goes to the war. But the story doesn't end there. Oh no, the consequences of that decision will follow him for the rest of his life.
Catholic theology has a concept that just perfectly describes the narrator's state: unconfessed sin. It's not just a bad memory. It's an active moral injury, a wound to the soul that doesn't heal because it has never been properly confronted, confessed, and reconciled.
And here we find a final, crucial distinction. The narrator feels contrition. He is deeply, painfully sorry for his cowardice. But feeling sorry just isn't the same as repair. The story he tells is an expression of his regret, but it doesn't restore the moral integrity he lost on that river.
And this brings us to the story's tragic, unsettling final question. By telling us this story decades later, is the narrator finally confessing his sin in a way that might lead to healing, or is he simply showing us a wound that is never closed and maybe never will?